everybody. Thanks for joining the course. This is the Music Theory Basics for the Advancing Guitarist. This is the first lesson. Let's dive right on into it. Okay, we're going to start with some assumptions first. I'm going to assume that you can already play some chords and some songs. This is not for beginners. I'm going to assume you probably have been using some tablatures to learn songs and solos. And I'm going to assume you don't play another instrument like piano or trombone. This course is not intended to teach you to sight read music. You'll learn how to read and interpret some musical symbols, but sight reading is a whole nother thing. We will be dealing with treble clef notation because that is what the guitar is annotated in. Our objective will be to help you figure out music by ear more easily. You'll be able to compose music. And if you want to increase your appreciation and enjoyment of music by understanding the structures you hear in songs, you'll find yourself, after going through several of these lessons, you'll be pushing the shopping cart through the shopping center, and you'll hear the song on the speakers there in the store, and you'll go, oh wow, that's a D chord, that's a G chord, oh he's doing a 2-5-1 progression. You'll start to recognize those things and just listening to music casually. Unfortunately, we're going to start with the piano just to get a couple of concepts down. That's going to be helpful because the piano is much more visual in this regard than the guitar is at first. This is just going to take a couple of minutes. So for keyboard logic, okay, we see black keys, white keys, they are arranged in a pattern. That pattern is easy to figure out. Notice that there are 2 black keys, then there's a group of 3 black keys, then a group of 2 black keys, and a group of 3, and it goes all the way across the piano keyboard this way. That helps the pianist to visually recognize where he's at. If you go to the first key to the left from the black key where there's the 2 groups, the group of 2, that's C. If you go to where there's the group of 3 and you go to the first key to the left of that group, that's an F. And it goes all the way across the piano that way. Now let's fill in the gaps. Starting with that C on the white keys going across, it goes C, D, E, F, G. Okay, we just finished part of an alphabet. Then we're going to go A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It stops at G, and then we start A, B, and then it keeps on going. If we had 88 keys of a piano, it would go across that whole thing. So that's the pattern. Why does it start with C? Well, that is the key that doesn't have any sharps or flats. It's all white keys. That's why we display it that way. You'll learn more about that in a later lesson. Now, if you jump from one C to the next C in the sequence, you've gone up an octave. If you go from one D to the next D up, that's an octave. Now, on the black keys, those are the sharps and flats. We call the white keys the natural notes. So the sharps and flats are arranged for the convenience of the piano player, and they follow a particular pattern, but every one of those keys, the black keys, has 2 different names, which complicates life just a little bit until you get a little bit further down the road here. If you look at where the C is, and you go to the first black key, that would be C sharp. Now look at where D is. If I go down or to the left to the first black key, that would be D flat. So the same note has 2 names. C sharp is D flat. If I go to D and go to the black key immediately to the right, that's D sharp. If I go from the E and I go down or to the left, that's E flat. So D sharp and E flat are the same thing. We call those enharmonic equivalents. So all the black keys have 2 names. The sharp symbol looks like a pound sign, and the flat looks, most text files are rendered just as a letter B, like D with a small case B for D flat. The actual sharp symbol in music is a little more pointy, but for written notation, that's the way it will be. So as you look across the top here, we see on the black keys, there's C sharp, D flat, There's D sharp, E flat. They're all the same note. F sharp is the same thing as G flat. G sharp is the same thing as A flat, and A sharp is the same thing as B flat. So when you're tuning with an electronic tuner, sometimes it may show your note. Let's say you're tuning down for a song to play some metal song, and you're going to tune down to a B flat. Well, you could also, your tuner may say A sharp. It's the same note. The keyboard is arranged in what they call whole steps and half steps. A jump from a white key to a black key, for example, from C to C sharp, that would be a half step. If I jump from C sharp to D, that's also a half step. If I jump 2 half steps, that makes a whole step. So if I went C, C sharp, D, well, that makes a whole step. Whenever I move in half step movements, so if I go from white key to black key to white key to black key on a cross, I'm moving in half steps, and that is called chromatic motion. Okay, important information, ding, 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 ding. Notice that there is not a black key between E and F, and there's not a black key between B and C. There is a natural half step between those notes. E and F, that's a half step. B and C, there's a half step, and there's no black key between them. Why? It is just that way. It's just the way they designed it. Okay, this is important when we move back to the guitar neck, and we're going back there in just a second. Okay, here's our familiar fretboard for our guitar neck, and we're going to show you the natural notes, essentially what would be white keys on the piano. Now, our lowest sounding string on the guitar is the low E string, and if you're looking at the diagram, that is the string that is on the bottom here. So that low E string, it's tuned to an E with no fingers holding down any notes anywhere on the fretboard. If you just play that open E string, that gives you a low E. Now the guitar is a chromatic grid. That's important to remember. We said chromatic motion means you're moving in half steps. So each fret on the guitar is precisely measured to play 1 half step above the note below it. So as we go across one note, we're just going up in half step increments all the way up to the top as far as you can reach on the guitar. We don't have white keys and black keys to tell us which are which, or the flats or sharps or the natural notes. We just have to memorize them. And it's not hard to do because the guitar is kind of visual. It's just a little more tricky than the piano is. The easiest way to learn the natural notes is just go string by string. Note the half steps between the open string E and F on the first fret. So if we look at what we've got here, there's the open E up on the far left. If you fret the note on the first fret, that's F. So notice it's just a half step. A whole step is going to be a 2-fret jump. So it's a whole step from F to G, so that's 2 frets. A whole step up to A, so that's 2 frets to the 5th fret. Up to B is another whole step. But remember, now we have another natural half step between B and C. There was no black key between those on the piano, remember. So from B to C, that's a half step. So they're right next to each other. That's just a 1-fret jump. From C to D is a 2-fret jump, so that's a whole step. And from D to E is a whole step jump. When we notice the arrow above that last E on the right, that takes us up to the 12th fret. At that point, we have gone up a full octave on the guitar. The 12th fret is the octave mark. That's why on most guitars you have a position marker that has 2 dots there. So that just shows you where the midpoint of the string is. What happens on the other side of that, we'll go into that later, but basically it just repeats. The note on the 13th fret would be an F, and it just follows the pattern going on up for a 2nd octave. So memorize those positions, right? So the open E, 1st fret, 3rd fret, 5th fret, 7, 8, 10, 12. Commit those to memory and remember the names of the notes. All right, now we're going to look at the sharps and flats on the guitar fretboard on that 6th string. So from open E, we go to the 1st fret to F. That was that natural half step. If we go up from F 1/2 step, that puts us at F sharp. Now if you look at G on the 3rd fret, if we go back up towards the headstock, which would be a lower sounding note, that would be G flat. So F sharp and G flat are the same note. Just depends on which direction you're going, up or down. G on the 4th fret is G sharp or A flat. 5th fret is A. 6th fret is A sharp or B flat. B and C, there's that natural half step again, so there's no sharp or flat between them. C sharp on the 9th fret, which is also D flat. On the 11th fret is D sharp or E flat. The easy way to learn the natural notes on each string is just to remember where the natural notes are and go up or down, right? So that's not a hard thing to do. On the 5th string, that's the open A string. So if we play that string with no fingers hold down any frets, that's an A. It follows the same pattern going up. So A to B would be a whole step. So B is on the 2nd fret. B and C is a natural half step, so that's only 1 fret up. D is 2 frets up on the 5th fret. E is 2 frets up, a whole step up on the 7th fret. E to F is a natural half step, so that would be right next to each other on the 7th and 8th fret. 9th fret is F sharp or G flat. 10th is G and G sharp or A flat on the 11th. At the 12th fret, we get up to the octave of the A string. So each flat and sharp, remember, has 2 names. D sharp is E flat, F sharp is G flat. It's the same pitch. You'll soon find out when we get into doing scales and key signatures why they're that way. Here's your assignment. I could make you a chart of the entire fingerboard displayed on it, but you can Google and find one of those. But it's better if you make one yourself. There's a process when you are writing. You are ingraining this into your memory more deeply because you're using 2 different modalities of writing and visual. And so that is a good way to do it. You want to memorize that chart and commit it to memory. So you're going to make a mental map of the fingerboard this way. So I gave you the first 2 strings, follow that pattern, and do the other 4 strings. You want to memorize that. Now, it may take you a week or 2 of doing this, but each day when you pick up the guitar, just pick a string and go up and name each name as you say it. Maybe say it and play it. That's what I call a little game, say it, play it. That's a good way to get the sound, visuals, all in your hand, all working together. Let's see here, and just the last one, you just got to do it. There's no shortcuts on this. You have to commit some of this stuff to memory. After a while, it is second nature, and you won't even have to think about it again. But it's a little hard at first. Just keep on working at it. You'll get it. Okay, thanks again, and stay tuned for lesson 2. Bye now.